Welcome to Women Investor Wednesdays, Joette. How are you?
I'm great, Beth. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm so excited you're here. I just was doing some snooping before we got on and listened to a part of a podcast that you were a guest on. And boy, is my audience going to love to hear your story. And I'm so excited that you're here. And thanks to our friend Christy who introduced us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I like to start the podcast every week with why we're doing this. And so if you could just bear with me for a couple minutes. During COVID, I had read a stat that said that of all of the women that invested in commercial real estate, only 3% were women. And of that 3%, 50% were inherited or spouses of men that signed on guarantees. And I thought that was deplorable. So I started investigating and interviewing friends of mine saying, do you invest? Do you invest? Do you invest? And these are women who, I'm in retail, I'm in shopping centers. So I'm in the commercial real estate industry. I've been doing it almost 40 years. So most of the women I was asking were in my field and, day to day did business in commercial real estate. And pretty much they all had the same answer. No. I go, well, where do you invest? Do you invest in real estate, commercial real estate? No, I own my house. And I go, well, you invest somewhere. Yes. Where? The stock market. Well, why don't you invest in commercial real estate? Well, I don't have $1 million. I'm like, okay, well, you don't need $1 million. And well, it's scary and risky. Well, so is the stock market. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And then finally someone said, well, I don't know any other women except for you that do it. And I thought, oh, the light bulb went off in my head. Like, this is a problem that I can solve because I can find women, get them that are doing it, get them together, put them on a platform and start exposing women like you to women out there that have an interest, but don't have anyone to reach out to or talk to. So during COVID, I did a summit a virtual summit that had 100 women. And I interviewed 8 or 9 women that had invested in all different kinds of asset classes. And it was really successful. Everyone loved it. So we've done 3 more in person where, again, fireside chats with women like you, sharing stories of how you invested in commercial real estate. And then we do breakout rooms where if you're interested in mobile home parks or student housing or retail, you can go and meet the speaker in their breakouts to learn more, where the speaker might show an underwriting of a deal, et cetera. And my goal is to get that 3% up to 10% before I turn 70, which is in about 6 more years. Don't ask me how I'm going to figure out how to get there and how I'm going to track those stats, but we're going to try to get there. And every year at the conference, I ask women who didn't invest before last year's summit and then have since. And every year about 8 to 10 women stand up. So we're making progress slowly but surely. So why I started the podcast is because the conference is very small and intimate. There's no more than 200, I think 225 we max out. So I figured, because some people can't travel, they have little kids, et cetera. So I figured let's do a podcast where 52 weeks out of the year, I can meet someone like you and you share your story. And then there's 52 more women that women can meet and hear and know that they're not alone. So that's a long-winded intro to why you are here and why I want my audience to hear about your story. So, Joette, can you tell them, they don't know that you're an attorney. You can talk about that. But we definitely want to get to the part where I think there is a mobile home involved, a mobile home park. So start wherever you want, and then I'll just do some deep dive questions as you tell your story.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you again for having me. Like you said, I am an attorney, but that's not where I started. I started right out of undergrad. So now if I'm aging myself, it'll be almost 19 years ago. And I started because my mother took me to a one-day seminar, like a free seminar where you could go see a real estate guru. And at the time, my mother had already been kind of using his courses, and she'd paid for his courses and used his education seminar group to do her own real estate. And so she took me. I had every intention of going out and getting a 9-to-5. But when she took me to that seminar and I heard the possibilities of what you can do in real estate and how it can change your life, that was it for me. I was like, well, there goes my 4-year degree. I was a double major, the scholarship, everything I just worked for. I just said, I want to do real estate. So I asked the guru that was teaching that day if I could work for him. And I think, I'm sure he gets lots of those requests. So it was like, kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever. But what I did differently was that I continued to call him every month for 6 months because I wanted to work for him. His courses at the time, 19 years ago, were anywhere between $3,000 to $40,000, depending on the package that you purchased. And like I said, I was about to graduate undergrad. I grew up poor, single mom from Vietnam, until she got remarried when I was in my teenage years. But those early years, it was carved into me that you're not going to get anything unless you work for it. And I didn't have the money to pay this guru. So I wanted to be in the room. And that's why I offered, can I work for you? Can I get your coffee? Can I get your dry cleaning? Can I get your groceries? So I called him every month for 6 months. And I think after 6 months, he kind of got the clue, this girl's not going to go anywhere. And so he gave me like an entry-level job on his sales team. And then through the sales team, I went from the sales team to more of a like logistics manager. And I spent 5 years working with him in various roles in his company, from in-person sales to phone sales to logistics managers. And in exchange, I got to sit in the back of the room and learn all of the information that he was teaching these investors who were paying minimum 3, maximum 40 to learn. And his seminar company taught everything: paper, commercial real estate, residential real estate, mobile home parks, billboards, all types of things. And then I worked for him for a few years, and then 2008 happened. And every investor that I knew and had been seeing through the program, just everybody went belly up, right? Because of the economy. And I watched that from afar. And I just said, you know what? I think asset protection is really important. Obviously financial savviness, but also asset protection, the two coupled together. And so I decided to go to law school to specifically become a real estate attorney. That is the only type of attorney I ever wanted to be. And thankfully I had done well enough in undergrad that I earned a scholarship to go to law school. But your first year of law school, at least where I went, you're not supposed to work. You're not allowed to work. And I needed the money. So I took the savings that I had saved up while working with the guru and lived off of that. And then I maxed out my federal school loans. It was about $18,000 at the time. And then I took that $18,000 and I went and I purchased individual mobile homes. In the area that I was going to school, mobile homes were around, $40,000 to $100,000. And I only had 18 to work with. So that wasn't going to work. But I found that if I went 100 miles north to upstate New York, there were homes going for as little as $5,000. And so my husband, who at the time was my boyfriend, he and I hatched a plan, and I would go to school Monday through Friday to law school. On Saturdays, we'd wake up and I would make egg sandwiches and we'd drink our homemade coffee because I couldn't afford Starbucks. And we would drive 100 miles north to upstate New York, and we would drive for dollars. We would drive around mobile homes and just call on for sale signs. Well, fortunately, I stumbled across one of the calls I made was the mobile home park owner. And he could tell from the get-go that I wasn't your run-of-the-mill 25-year-old at the time. And so he and I struck a deal that every single time one of his tenants abandoned their mobile homes, he just wanted the back lot rent. And so he said, I'll give you the home if you pay the back lot rent. And I said, that's fine, but my goal is to flip these puppies. And so I want 2 months free lot rent. I'll catch you up, and then you're going to give me another 2 months free, because in that 2 months time frame, the goal was to flip the mobile home. So that's what we did. I would scrub the toilets on Saturdays and Sundays. My boyfriend, now husband, would roll the tar out on the roofs. He'd pull the carpet out, put new carpet down, he'd paint. And then we would advertise in your local, dollar, those penny saver, like free coupons. Like we would advertise on there, and we'd advertise in Craigslist, but we would advertise seller financing because I only needed enough to pay back the interest on the student loans. The student loans didn't come due until I graduated. So we would flip them and sell for cash, or we'd seller finance them. And then that would pay off the interest on the student loans. And eventually it paid off law school. So that's how we started.
How many between the start and meeting the guy to graduating law school did you accumulate or buy and flip?
So the mobile homes we from there graduated and escalated our portfolio up to like single families. We started out with REOs. So we went from mobile homes to REOs. And then from there went to like 2 families, 3 families. And now that we've been married for a long time, our portfolio includes like a 12-unit apartment building. And we've bought and sold and we've flipped houses in between that. So quite a bit.
That's amazing. So currently, what's your portfolio today? Or are you starting to hold any now that you're getting older, or are you still in the flipping game?
We're doing both. Currently, our portfolio is 40 units between single family and the 12-unit apartment building. And then we flip anywhere between a half dozen to a dozen a year on top of that. And then in my law firm, which is real estate based, I've been licensed attorney now for going on 12 years. And in that firm alone, for my clients, I've done 3,000 transactions from residential and commercial. So I've taken that experience and applied it to our own portfolio.
That's amazing. Well, first of all, love the, beating down the door of the guru to get the job. Like I just posted something this morning on Twitter about a young woman who was an intern who wanted to work for me, and she just was relentless. And I kept saying, I don't have anything for you. And then finally I couldn't say no to her, and I hired her. And it's this story about how her first day on the job, I made her go plunge a toilet. So it's just that good for you. And then the driving the 100 miles, dialing for dollars, meeting the mobile home park owner. Like, people say, well, how lucky? Well, it wouldn't have happened had you not been doing the work.
Well, he wasn't the first call I made. He was probably the 100th plus caller. I mean, I made hundreds of calls a week, just trying to find a home or a home to buy. And,
and your boyfriend at the time, he was all in, or did he think you were crazy, or he's like, yeah, let's do this?
He's the one that paid $40,000 to go to the guru's courses. He was one of the students. I was working and I met him.
Now, I'm guessing because you're using the adjective guru, you don't want to name the name.
Oh, the name is James Smith. That's who I worked for.
Did he go belly up in 08 too, or he maintained?
I don't know his personal portfolio, but he's still out on the speaking circuit. I know he's still speaking, and he spoke for the Get Motivated seminar company for a while, which I know that is, I don't believe they're in business anymore, but James Smith is who I worked for. And, no matter anybody's views on gurus and the seminar companies and how it works, the information is there. And if you apply the information, it works.
Absolutely. When I was 26, I worked as I was a trainee as a leasing agent to fill commercial properties. And our boss took us to Tom Hopkins, who was a sales guru guy. To this day, and at the end of the seminar, I took my credit card, which I had no business doing, and bought, I think it was $1,800 for a cassette. Do you know what a cassette is?
Oh, yeah.
So a cassette program that I wore those out until they broke. But to this day, I still use the techniques I got from that seminar. And I've been to I wrote my first book. I've written 2 books, and one of the books, or the reason I was able to do the books is I went to a book writing guru guy, and I've been to real estate guru people. So yeah, there's all kinds of crazy talk about, are they shysters, but if you go and you learn and you meet great people, potential husbands, right? I have partners today in my real estate that I've met at masterminds or sales conferences or things like that. So education is super important. You're not going to learn. It's super hard to learn it on your own.
Right. It really is. And it takes so much time. And I think that working for him fast tracked, because then I was in it and I was around it all day long for 5 years. And then I went to law school, and now 12 years in, I have been able to learn through my clients' mistakes and how to fine tune a deal, what to do, what not to do, how to advise it, and how to apply it to my own portfolio so that my husband and I avoid making those same mistakes.
So what's your plan? You said currently you have the 12 units up to 40 units. So it's a 12 unit apartment complex, I guess. Yes. Apartments.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And single family. What's your plan going forward? You're so young. Do you want to buy more apartments? Do you want to stay in that asset class? Have you ever looked into other asset classes?
Oh, absolutely. So the goal is to acquire more, obviously, to create more passive income. My goal is to, leave a legacy for my 3 children. The other asset classes that we're looking at, I would really love to do a hotel conversion. So buying an existing hotel with however many units and then converting that into studio living, like micro apartments, and creating a affordable living option in my community. And when I say affordable housing, I don't mean government backed. I just mean something that a single mother could afford. Like I said, I grew up poor, and my father exited stage right when I was 5. So it was just my mom and I for a long time. And I witnessed, her working 3 jobs. I know what it's like to not have food on the table. And growing up, I was an angel tree kid. Do you know what that is? So I was an angel tree kid. I was a latchkey kid. I'm taking care of myself at age 8. I mean, the ability and the power that real estate gives you to not only create your own legacy, but change those of others is just astounding. And that's what I want and hope to do.
Is your mom still alive?
She is, yes.
How proud of you is she?
I would hope very.
My mom and dad are since passed, but my mom was a very tough cookie. And I didn't have the situation that you did, but she was rare to give me kudos, but I know she was always proud of me. But those tough entrepreneurial women, or those hard work ethic women, my mom was very strict, but she created in me a work ethic that, helped me with some of the successes that I've had.
Yeah, most definitely.
So I like the hotel conversion. So 3 children, how old are they?
10, 7, and 5. So I am in the thick of it, running my law firm, doing the flips, helping manage the portfolio, doing daycare drop off, all of it. I'm out of the diaper stage, but we're not in we're still in the, I can potty by myself, but I still need help stage. So
yeah, you're in the thick of it for sure. For sure. I'm a single mom of 2 boys, but they're 24 and 21. So one's off the payroll and one's in college. So we're good. But when my 21-year-old was 7, he said, I don't want to go to school. I said, okay, you can come to work with me. He goes, okay, great. And I gave him gloves and 2 big black garbage bags. And I said, go and pick up all the cigarette butts in the parking lot of the shopping center. And then at lunchtime, he came in and he goes, it's time for a break for lunch in the air conditioner. And we live in South Florida. I said, oh no, I brought you your lunch. It's a tuna fish sandwich in a bag with a pickle and an apple. And you go sit on the curb, because that's where people that don't go to school eat.
Oh, well, that's a powerful lesson.
Yeah. He never said, I don't want to go to school anymore. after that. It was a great lesson. It was a great lesson. But it's great when you have a real estate, there's always something to be done. And sometimes, depending on the age of the kids, they can help and they can see.
And they can clean, and that is what they do. So if I'm going to clean toilets, because that's where, my real estate journey started, they can clean toilets. There is nothing below us. Every job has to be done.
Absolutely. Exactly. So what percentage would you say is your law job, your law career versus doing the real estate?
So my husband's full-time job is managing our portfolio, like the rentals, and then managing the flips. My law firm is really like a 9 to 5. It is something that I'm very dedicated to. However, that being said, the goal is to transition out of the day-to-day of being an attorney for other people, that the way I've done for the last 12 years, and really to kind of turn up the dial on what our personal portfolio holds and use the experience and information that I've gathered these last 12 years and use that to, like I said, create a legacy for our children. So that's the goal.
And do you want to do that just through passive investments of cash flow, or are you thinking of, or do you have a coaching or training, or are you creating coaching and training programs?
I am currently in the process of creating coaching and programs so I'm from Connecticut. I'm licensed in Connecticut and Massachusetts. And in my field, I have found very few attorneys who focus on the niche that I focus on in my firm, and even fewer women. And when I say that, what I mean is there's lots of real estate attorneys, but in my firm, I specifically focus on creative financing. But, like I did how I started, I would buy a mobile home, I'd fix it, and then I'd flip it and sell it on seller financing terms. So there's a whole world out there of ways to fund real estate purchases without going to your local bank and getting a loan and paying whatever the interest rate is and putting 20% down. I mean, there's just a whole other world. There's a whole other host of options that very few people know about. And so in my area, I host meetings for investors to learn about these creative finance strategies. And I'm one of very few attorneys in my area who will do these types of strategies, educate, and then close the transaction for you as well.
That's great. But are you only licensed up there?
Only in those 2 states, Connecticut and Massachusetts.
But so can you teach and train people that don't live up there, more generic teaching?
Yes, I can do that with the disclaimer that I'm not giving legal advice, of course, and that they have to go seek an attorney in their own area. Like last week, I had a woman call me from Arizona, and she wants me to teach her how to use these strategies, which the strategies can be used countrywide, right? It's the nuances per state. Right. And so the strategies can be taught. And that's what I'm doing through the course that I'm developing, is teaching the general strategy. And then it's up to the consumer or the investor themselves to make sure that those align with what their state laws are.
Got it. And with you and your husband, have you thought, okay, this is what our portfolio needs to equal to get the cap and to hold it, right? Because flipping you got to hold it to get the cash flow to be able to replace the 9 to 5. Like, have you guys planned ahead and said, this is the number, therefore we need to invest in these many doors or this much of real estate? I
could have left a long time ago.
Okay. So you like it.
I stay in it as an attorney because I enjoy helping other investors, but I don't need to do this. I joke with my friends, like, being an attorney is my side hustle. I do it because I have the knowledge and I want to give back, but I don't have to.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Because, because you lived the life, and I'm sure you've spoken to a lot of people, and I'm trying to help women not get sucked into. A lot of people hear or read or think or learn or hear that quit your W-2, start investing in real estate, and the cash flow will cover, your expenses very quickly. And it doesn't happen very quickly. It takes time. And it also doesn't happen if you're flipping a lot. You've got to hold and have the cash flow, the distributions. Yes, when you flip, you can get big pieces, but you've got to be able to, everything I'm saying. So I have so many people that call me and talk to me and say, so I don't teach this. So my goal is to inspire and motivate and expose. I want people to open up. In my world of retail, I have so many friends who they rep the tenant like a Starbucks, meaning they rep them looking for locations. They go find the real estate to put the Starbucks in. So they have, in essence, have A and B, right? Perfect. And then they go to a guy developer and say, here's the package. And they don't say, can I throw my commission in? Can I put some equity in? They don't think about, I could be a partner, an LP in this deal. So my whole mission is to just get as many women on platforms as possible, whether it's on Women Investor Wednesdays or at the conference, so that women that aren't doing it yet are thinking, oh, I should be thinking that I could roll my commission in, or I should be thinking that I could do some seller financing, or I should be thinking about different asset classes like mobile homes. But I don't teach them how to do it. So I like when I bring women on who have coaching, because I'm not going to teach them. I just want to motivate them and inspire them. And then I want them to go find a coach or a mastermind or something that will help teach them and educate them. So I'm glad to have you here. How can they find you? What's the best way for them to reach out to you if they want to talk to you about what you have to offer?
So my website is my last name.law, www.trin.law. My email is joette@trin.law. And I'm very active on Facebook specifically. I have a Facebook page for my law firm, but my email is really the quickest and easiest way to get a hold of me. So that's what I would recommend.
Amazing. Now, have you guys ever partnered with people, been a GP and brought in LPs, or been an LP yourself in other investors deals?
Not yet, but we are currently in discussions on one right now.
So that's been actually my very happy unintended result of the conference is I invested with two women in Wisconsin who bought a limited stay hotel down from Lambeau Field. I'm from Milwaukee, so I was a Green Bay Packer fan. So buying into a limited stay hotel near Lambeau Field, my whole family is very excited about that. I also have invested with a woman in South Florida that has, at her second conference, she stood up and she had, I think, 47 units. And I said, well, how many are you going to have next year at the conference? And she said, 50. And I'm like, what? I said, you need to have 100. And she said, okay. And then the next year I had her stand up. I said, who remembers Natasha last year at the conference? What was my goal for her? And everyone yells, 100 units. And I said, Natasha, how many units do you have? And she goes, 102. So
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. So but again, we put our own mindset limitations, right? She just said, oh, I could go from 42 to 50. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You could go to 100. She was buying 4 units and 6 units and 4 units and 6 units. And I said, you need to go find a 30 unit. They're the same. Right. So, I've invested with 4 of her deals. So I've been very excited that I've gotten to meet women like you and these other women who have deals that I can invest in as an LP. I still do my own shopping center deals as a GP here, and I raise family and friends money, but I always tease and say at the conference, it's great giving a check and getting a check and doing no work.
Right.
It's really great. And I started as an LP. I did 7 deals. And then I said, oh, I can do this on my own. And then I went and was my own GP and did all these deals. And now I'm like, I've come full circle, and now I'm going back to LPing now that I'm 64. It's like, I don't really want to start a new development that's going to take me 5 years. I don't want to do that.
Right. Right. Well, who knows? This conversation that we're having now, working out the LP, GP, and the operating, we're working out the operating memorandum and all of that. So I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, please do. Please do. So what would you, if you had one piece of advice to give to a woman that is watching this and is, has 50,000 that she's interested in investing, what would be your advice for her to get started?
Well, that's a loaded question. So I
Without,
think,
no legal advice here, everyone. This is a disclaimer. She has to hire an attorney in her market. That's for
correct.
sure.
That's correct. I would say that I have a real affinity for creative financing, just because I feel like it can get you further. If you've got a limited amount of funds, like I did, like I had $18,000 to start with, and you need that to go as far as possible. For me, it's creative financing. Learn the strategies of wholesaling, seller financing, rent to own, though, subject to existing financing, assumptions of loans. All of those are great because it requires less money out of your pocket if you structure it correctly, and you're able to make your dollar go further. And for me, that was what I needed when I started out. And I think that for a lot of women who are just getting started and who are a little bit nervous about putting money into the market, and maybe they have a set amount that they are able to work with, and then they're nervous about losing that amount as well, because I know that is the fear plays into things.
Sure.
I think number one, it's educating yourself, but then also number two, educating yourself about the different strategies so that they can make an educated decision about what's right for them. When I was doing the mobile home flipping, like I said, I had very limited funds and I needed my dollar to stretch as far as possible. And so I used a strategy that worked best for me. I could have taken that money and gone and bought a 2-family, and that would have been nice. And I would have made a little bit of rent, but it wasn't going to pay off my law school loans the way that the flipping was doing, because I was buying and selling for double my money, or I was buying and selling on seller financing terms, and over the term of the loan, I'm making 15% interest. So where are you going to make 15% interest in today's market, right? So I would say educating themselves on strategies for sure, just picking the one that's right for their personal situation.
Absolutely. Joette, it's been a pleasure. Any last words that you want to share with the audience?
Thank you so much for having me. And if I can help in any way and help empower them or give advice, not legal advice, but just motivation, like you said, I would be happy to do that. Thank you so much for having me. And hopefully I can be where you are one day. That's a goal of mine as well, to be on the level that you're at.
Well, you're much younger than me. So if you're going to far surpass me when you're my age. I can see it in the crystal ball.
Thank you.
But thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing. And everyone, reach out to Joette at her email. We will post it in the show notes. So Joette, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And thanks, Christy, for introducing us. And I guess we met at the Women Invest Her. Yeah, Invest Her. That was a great conference too.
It was.
Thank you.
Thank you.